And one of the things that I told you, I don't know if you remember this, I don't need you to be me.
Exactly. Yep.
Like, don't act like me. I don't like, if I needed another me, I'd go out and get another me. Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of your best day yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer here at the Center for Victory. Today, I have with us our intern, Mr. Braden Majors. Good to have you here. I think we're going to talk a little bit today about just kind of your journey, a little bit of onboarding to help folks out, how it's been, and some other things about your life and things like that, and just kind of ongoing. But really, kind of nuts and bolts, what you brought, to the company as an intern. You haven't been here too long, but still have made an impact. But there's a lot of things that we did to kind of get you on board, get you up to speed. But I'm just kind of curious as to, you kind of chose us.
Yep.
What made you think, hey, look, this is something I want to try?
Well, I've known you guys for a little bit longer than when I was looking for a job. So
Right.
I knew you personally from playing soccer with Josiah. And I don't know, I knew the cause was good. And you kind of, something that you explain to your clients is you get to do this. You don't just, have to do it. So it's kind of you being so passionate about it made me want to come on board and see what I can do for you too.
Yeah, and you're going to actually be done. So if anybody's actually listened to this and wants to give this young man a job offer, I've handed out several of your resumes and your assessments and everything.
Yeah, it'll be going across the screen right now, right?
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about, because you've heard it already. You've been with me. The big topic is, all right, we get people, so we put you in the right place. I mean, right? This is, lots of detail, went over your results with you from the assessments and how you fit. So how we chose you, I should back up a little bit. How we chose you is you fit in line with those things. So it wasn't just willy-nilly just because I knew you, because there are a lot of people that I know that I just wouldn't bring them on if they didn't fit.
Right.
So we needed somebody that had attention to detail. You have plenty of that, in a good way. And I'm just laughing because I don't.
Yeah.
Right. It's you help with that as well. You very high in the altruism piece of motivation. So that's kind of where, our values locked in. And, with some of the other assessments, it was just, high EQ already, which is always good, especially when we're doing what we're doing. Didn't think you'd get as much opportunity as you had. So far, it's been kind of a whirlwind, which has been great, as things have opened up even more for us from COVID, and you've got to go along. Next week we'll be out together 2 full days.
Yep.
out of the office here. So just the kind of the onboard process, I thought we'd go over today, and what you thought about it. Like, give your actual opinion. I know you have before, but so people can know, because this is very important. You heard, I was on a call this morning, and the gentleman, that's what how do you onboard people?
Right.
We want to make sure we keep them. We can get you the right person, so you're a fit. But what we did was, more importantly, is how we onboarded you and things of that nature. So first thing is, we did all the assessments. So day one, you came in, we did the predictive index, we did the values index, we did the attribute index, and I went over all those with you. So the predictive index was the behavioral instrument. Now, that wasn't your first taste at it, so I have to tell everybody that. You came to Vision Day, you spent the day there with us. So have gone through those videos that we did after that. So was it your first rodeo with the predictive index? What are your thoughts on that? Like just in general, like what do you think about that when I sat down with you, went over the results?
Right. Well, I actually think like a lot of your clients say it makes a lot of things like make sense, just relationships. And like you said, like I have that attention to detail and like it's complementary. So there's places where my attention to detail is needed, and there's places where you don't need as much attention to detail, take some risk. That's where you come in. So so I've learned a lot about myself, and it's been developmental for sure, and just making sure my values line up with yours as well. You were very clear with that from day one, just making sure that if I do this, this is what's expected. This is how like kind of the environment is. So yeah, it just made me excited to jump on board.
Yeah. And then one of those onboarding process. So we literally have a folder, right?
Yeah.
An onboarding folder. And this is what I would encourage people to do because I think it's helpful is to see all that, go through all of it. So you mentioned our core values. So I did go over those core values with you, you know, those 5 that we have. But again, I explained it in the fact that, hey, I think you have these. That's one of the other reasons that we brought you on.
Right. Yeah.
And then we went on to the other piece of the predictive index tools. If people use them, and I know several of our clients do, not all, but I would say roughly, 90 to 95% of our clients use the cognitive instrument, which again does not measure IQ. It measures processor speed. And I don't know if you remember the first time after you took that, I called you and messed with you a little bit.
Yeah. I was kind of scared about that actually.
Which was kind of funny. So he scored extremely high on it, way, way high, which I always knew you were bright. That's why I was calling to mess with you. But it just gives you, again, greater insight. And you did do well in college, and you've done well to this point. And obviously you're graduating a year early.
Yep.
So you must have done all right. But you did, but that's just another indication of, you have success in a role. So good behavioral fit, good cognitive fit. I think probably the only issue we have here with you is keeping you busy. There's a lot of things that, I think somebody that may not be a great fit or, just not as quick as you, might take all day, and which is okay with me. I just want it done correctly.
Right.
Which was another benefit because I don't like sitting here till 5, 6 o'clock at night either. So that was one of the things I told you. Now your values. So your values index.
Yep.
What were the ahas there? So for people that don't know that, that's an assessment. It's about motivation. I'm not necessarily hiring or firing from that piece, but I just want to know what gets you motivated so we can incorporate that into your internship. But if you were an employee, into your an employment, what are your motivations?
Yeah. So I think whenever I took that, my highest was theoretical. And I can kind of tell the things you implemented for me to kind of get that motivation going, like the books. I have to complete 5 books by the end of the internship. Economic was my other highest one. So even one of the books that I just read, we gone over, it's about managing like money, and that kind of drives me. You know that I'm like a finance guy, so that hit both marks for me, the theoretical and the economic, and what kind of impact I can make in those areas. So I see how you aligned it with what really lights my fire, as you say.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that, because the more that you build on that, like if you were here longer, and we actually just talked about this morning, coincidentally, is if you were here longer, what would make you that subject matter expert? Because you're like lots of it, high attention to detail behaviorally, so you like that, and then you're motivated theoretically, which is just knowledge for knowledge's sake. And when you have those two combined, the best way to keep somebody like you going and actually engaged is to do things like that, where you're going to become the expert, so a couple of things that we could have maybe rolled out for you here if we were going to, keep you on as an employee would have been just things like, hey, look, get really good at the training. So you might not think, you might see somebody with your profile that isn't quite as extroverted and think, probably not good. But the deal is, if you get really good at it, you're going to be that expert that everybody turns to. I'm not going to have you do all kinds of presentations. I'm just going to get you focused in on that.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would you think if I would, what would you think about that if I would, down the road, because you've gone through the training, so you've heard it a couple of times now, so you're certified. So anybody out there that's looking for somebody that's ready to go, that's actually you've had several PI trainings, and you're certified Jedi.
Yep.
All right. A couple classes with that in different settings. You've virtual, in person, things like that. So you've got the gamut. Is that something that would have potentially interested you down the road if I'd have said, hey, Braden, go ahead and I want you to start doing the training?
Yeah, no, definitely. It piques my interest. Like we've been talking about the theoretical, just that learning and developing a knowledge bank where somebody can hit me and Johnny on the spot and can kind of pull it out of whenever I learned it and apply it. Even I worked at Home Depot as a paint sales associate, and I can remember anything. My coworkers turned to me and they're like, which one's the best for this again? And pulled it right out just like that, just from experiencing it, getting out and actually doing the work hands-on and talking with customers. And you kind of allowed me to do that here with the PI and seeing clients and sitting in on your meetings and things like that. So the experience is definitely there, and I would love to further it and become that subject matter expert. Yeah.
So I think really whatever you're going to do, that's going to be it. And you will do that. I mean, there's no doubt, because there's so many opportunities for someone your age. You know, both my kids, how well they're doing, and they've only been out a year, but lots of opportunities for people your age. And I think what we're talking about right now is so important, like how you get onboarded. Like you're figuring out in those first few days, or most people your age, am I going to stay here? Am I going to go? Like all those things are coming into play. So when you look at it, from that standpoint, the next thing that we did was we did your profile, your behavioral profile over your self, right? So we did the job target over your behavioral profile. Any insight into that? Was that good to see? Was it just like,
Yeah, no, it was nice to see, especially like going into the role, kind of what to expect. I knew there's like, you're going to have to adapt something, some sort of drive. Obviously, like you said, my B is a little bit lower, but like I learned whenever I got certified, it's the easiest one to move if you need to. So if I can flex, like you said, scoring high on the cognitive gives you that kind of horsepower to move it around a little bit. So just knowing the expectations was perfect, and I adapted, I think, pretty well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just wanted to kind of get your perspective and have you share that with people of how important that is.
Yeah.
You just heard me do a phone call with somebody right now and ask them, hey, did your boss go over this with you yet?
Yeah, exactly.
Because he hadn't. And she was like, yeah, he set time. We didn't get through it all, but he set more time later on next week, because it's just so important.
Yeah.
It's so important for when you want to start out.
Yeah.
Like to give you those expectations. And one of the things that I told you, I don't know if you remember this, I don't need you to be me.
Exactly. Yep.
Like, don't act like me. I don't like, if I needed another me, I'd go out and get another me. I don't know if we could handle that, but you've been complementary, which goes to my next piece, which is in that onboarding folder. There's also with the predictive index tools, there's also personal development chart. So that
Mhm.
gives you, for your particular drives, that gives you your strengths, your cautions, and gives you some self-coaching tips. What did you get, if anything, out of that document?
Well, I learned kind of what makes me, well, kind of like my inner workings, that I need those details. I need things like that. And sometimes if I were to step into, like, say, a management role, sometimes I got to get out of the weeds, as you say, and not micromanage so much. It's kind of, I can still have a part in it, but it's more of an oversight of it rather than actually being down in there doing the work, and trusting that other people's process doesn't have to be the same as mine, and it can be just as effective.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm glad you remembered that, because that will help you in your career. I'm the opposite, so I have to be careful in the opposite way. But somebody that tends to be, more perfectionistic, like yourself, when they grow, there are things that you're going to be doing that you have control over, that you have to do.
Right.
And then you want to go into leadership and management, you're going to have to let go of some of those things. And if you can't, you're only going to go so far. But if you can and understand that, so thanks for bringing that point up, because everybody that I coach that's 10, 15 years older than you, that's what that they're struggling with sometimes. And once they go, oh, yeah, I need to let go of that, they improve and then they get promoted and things like that. But because they're so used to hanging on to all that.
Yeah.
Because they're good.
They're missing the forest through the trees. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So some of the other things we could put into that onboarding folder too, or relationship guides. I mean, you've obviously we onboarded a couple people together.
Right. Yeah.
Not with a little bit more brevity than you and I did. I mean, you and I actually took the time, which they will, but I think it's so important. And I just want to have people, I'd rather spend a couple hours going over that, have you read it. But anytime inside of a company, just to say, hey, and you got to see the folks' faces when we onboarded them the other day. And one of them said, hey, look, can I get this? I don't know, it's for his wife or his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he was joking. We're like, yeah, if it makes it, things better. But the light bulb went on. It's like, oh, this is why you hired me.
Yeah.
And he seemed pretty excited.
Yeah. Actually, when you're talking about the relationship guide, I did it with compared to my mom's, and we are just complete opposites. So I showed it to her that night, and my mom says she was she was funny about it. She goes, "It says here that I have to change a whole lot." And I was like, I think we both kind of have to, give some change in our own ways, but it works out well, obviously. So
yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit, because a lot of people, a lot of companies don't talk about that complementariness. You mentioned it already once or twice already while we were talking here. Told you, hey, look, I don't need a me, I need a you. I need the detail.
Yeah.
I don't like it, and you've seen me at my worst with that sometimes. Yesterday afternoon was a good example of that, when we had to get really detailed in some things. And
yes.
yeah. And I'm not a raving lunatic, but it just I hate focusing on that
drains
much.
You,
yeah, it really drains me. But you were able to help. Tammy was able to help. Both of you have that great attention to detail. And what's funny about that is when I watch somebody like you do that, it's so much quicker.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, oh, here it is.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to take an hour or two. 15 minutes later, I get it. But from your perspective, being young, when I say how to be complimentary with someone, what have been your ideas to this point on that? Like, what have you seen that's either good, bad? Because you've been in some companies too.
Yeah.
What's good about understanding that? Let's start with that question first. What's good about understanding that out of the gate?
I think knowing that, you need to be complimentary, with an old manager, actually, we kind of had strengths in the same areas, and then like some things would fall apart elsewhere. And I kind of learned early on that, you have to, even if you have a weak spot, somebody's covering you with their strong suit, and it ends up working out a lot better internally and relationship wise too, even in your life. So
Yeah. So have you seen one that's been very competitive that they didn't even realize? I mean, I can't. Yeah, I'm trying to think of all the places that we've gone. If you've noticed anywhere there, or you just have an example of when it kind of goes sideways when it's not working?
yeah, you mean when two people aren't complementary?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you get some people that are argumentative, those high A's, and yeah, and they think their idea is the best idea, and maybe if that area is somewhere where they're both really strong and they want to do it a different way, then you butt heads and you get some heated moments at work or wherever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, taking all that into consideration, the last thing I showed you, but we won't actually get to go over it, to extend your internship. We're going to go over it because I put it in that folder.
Right.
But one of the most crucial things that I see in today's companies and organizations is there's just no development platform. There's no engagement platform. And one of the nice tools that's in the PI that you've got to see is, I call it the manager scorecard, but it's really the manager strategy guide in the software piece. But I call it the scorecard because it really says, hey, manager, what can you be doing for this person that you manage to help them in the environment and give them what they need, so they're getting out of the environment, so they're staying engaged, staying productive, retaining them, all those things. So we'll go over that, but it's not a difficult document.
Yeah.
What that would look like, and you've seen it, so you've got to see it for different people. But if you want to comment even on your own, up to this point, it's going to say things like, are you getting that space to be able to think? Are you getting the detail that you need? Which is a great question. Do you think so far you've gotten that?
Yeah, I do think I've gotten it. Sometimes I think I like a little bit more because I do work very fast, and I think so far my work's been pretty good, quality work, even though I do it pretty fast. So sometimes I find myself just looking for things to do. That's really the only part I could really give you any like criticism, I guess.
Yeah.
But one of the things you told me, I think, whenever we were doing the onboarding, is a lot of people don't quit their job, they quit their boss. So it's a lesson to be learned for sure.
Yeah. And and it's been nice having you. I mean, it's like, you do work quickly, and it's good stuff. So I don't like, I guess if it was not as good, I could get on you a little bit and I would take some time up. But I'm more concerned with, I don't care how long you're here. I just want it done right. And, if you're finding those ways, and, the funny thing is you're just getting quicker.
Yeah.
The more you learn, like it's not even like, okay, I got to remember, like, this might have taken him an hour. It's probably only going to take him a half an hour.
Well, yeah, I think it was the computer. Actually, I had some computer problems with that one in the office for a little bit there, and now I think I've got it down.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah, and it's just, it comes up, and it's like, well, okay, we're going to go to this, we're going to do that. But doing that too, that complementary piece, and I don't know if you want to speak to this, but I think it's, for me, it's letting us do some things that I didn't think I couldn't even imagine we were going to get to do. I know some of the things we have on the calendar for next week. I was like, man, this is kind of neat, because I never thought I'd be asking him for help on this, but it's because you've kind of, worked ahead. It just happened. You come in at the right time where we're doing some things with some other clients that you've got to participate in. You've
Yeah.
got actually active participation in the meetings and things like that. So you've got to see the dynamics in a leadership team, which I think are fantastic, even just being a fly on the wall. But if we were to sit down today, one of the things that I would do in that 90-day review, which is that with that manager scorecard. So we'll do that at the end of your internship, like I said, but we won't get to continue it because you won't be here. But like, if I were to ask you, just for example, for the people that are listening and things, where do you think you would like to evolve next if you stayed here?
Oh, wow. That's a difficult question. So like I said, I'd like to be more knowledgeable about the PI, develop more knowledge in that area. But I guess next would be getting in contact with some clients and stuff like that. Like you said, even for the podcast, I'm behind the scenes a lot. So finding guests, things like that, I could definitely do better in that aspect, the networking, kind of finding people and connecting. I guess that would be my next step, I think, logically.
Okay. So your experience with the predictive index, and we'll kind of start wrapping things up here, but I guess doing all these assessments, like, what have you learned about what you want to go do? Like you obviously you're passionate about some things, but what have you learned that's kind of validated some things for you, or, hey, look, I really need to go after this? What are some of the takeaways?
I guess the job fit. So one of the books I read, Traction, Right People, Right Seat, right? So I learned that if I don't have like whatever lights my fire, which is finance for me realistically, if I am not getting what I need theoretically, or something that's challenging me, then I'm gonna probably burn out or find something else, go somewhere else. But yeah, it kind of indicated what really it is I need in the workplace, and what I want to do and where I want to go with it.
Okay, tips. A lot of people are coming out of college, university, trade school, stuff like that right about now.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the timing. You're young, they're young. What advice would you give somebody? Are there a few things that you would say, hey, make sure you do this, this, and that?
Actually, so whenever I was picking a college, I was looking at like colleges like Penn State and Pitt or wherever, these big colleges, and I was thinking like that's where I want to go, right? Because of it's Penn State. I want to go there. I actually went to a 3-year program at Pittsburgh Technical College because I wouldn't have as much debt going out, and I'm out a year early. I can start paying off my debt a year early and invest. So it's kind of like finding what you need to get to where you want to be, rather than like the status of going to somewhere just because it looks good on your resume, things like that.
That's actually, I didn't think you would say that, but that's a very good tip. Yeah, it really is. I mean, with people listening, because obviously, you've seen it. That does not impress me.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
What impresses me is, do you fit? Do you, behaviorally, do you have a lot of horsepower? Do you have the get up and go? Do you want it? Do you have capacity? Do you get it? We always say hire for drive, teach for skill. I'd love having younger people in and get to teach that skill over and over, as long as it's your passion. So, well, that's been good.
Yeah.
Right. And I appreciate all this. I think we're going to cut it there for today, and maybe we'll have you back one more time before the end of your internship. Hopefully this was helpful to everybody listening, especially if you're a little bit younger or you're a parent worried about your kid. All different kinds of kids. You've always been more quiet, obviously, than my kids, but always hung around, always appreciated you, but you're gonna do well down the road. I usually ask my guests, how do people find you? But I'm going to tell them how to find you, because if somebody's interested in possibly interviewing you, you're done in about another month or so.
Yep.
By the time this podcast gets out, it'll probably be only a week or two. But if anybody's interested, I have all his assessments. We have his resume. He's definitely in the Pittsburgh area, wants to stay in the Pittsburgh area. Hybrid, remote, in office, you're up for any of that.
For anything, yep.
Yep. So reach out to us and I'll definitely put you in contact with this young man if you're interested. But that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Appreciate if you hit the subscribe button so you get notified when we post next. You can get more information at centerforvictory.com. And remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll see you next time.